again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away.
Please welcome to the stage Amy Henning, President of Skydance New Media, and Marc Bernardin, Story Consultant, Skydance New Media.
We're really just so happy and pleased to be able to share this even little peek behind the curtain, and there's a lot there to speculate on, so I hope people will. You know, it's sort of summarized in our little tagline, you know, this is a story that is written around these sort of, this team of kind of these four unlikely heroes inside this team, playable heroes. Two are super, two not, who come from very different worlds, but their paths collide because they're drawn into this global conflict, and this is where the story unspools.
Yeah, I mean, World War II felt like an incredible place to set this story, because a conflict is always great for drama, but it was a sort of crimson fulcrum for which you could then bring Steve Rogers into it in his sort of formative era, and then crash, you know, a Black Panther into this. And then what happens when these two sort of avatars of their philosophies, of their countries, of their worlds, butt heads?
So our little team is made up of, obviously, us, the Black Panther of his time, which is T'Challa's grandfather. His name's Azuri, King of Wakanda and Black Panther. A very young Captain America, you know, still kind of finding his feet, Steve Rogers. And then our two non-supers are Gabriel Jones of the Howling Commandos, who we're really excited to be able to put front and center in a story. And then our fourth character has only been maybe mentioned a couple times in the comics, and so that gave us a lot of latitude to just sort of craft her, and that's Nanali, who is a Wakandan spy, the founder of the Wakandan Spy Network, out there working in the European theater of war to protect Wakanda's interests.
You know, when I think of Black Panther and I think of Captain America, I think because of the MCU and because of modern comics, right, I often think about them existing in the modern day, but of course we had those iterations back during that era. And so for you guys, like, what does creating the story in World War II do for you in terms of what you can do with the story?
Yeah, well look, I mean, I sort of have a wheelhouse, a sweet spot, and I love sort of pulpy, two-fisted action adventure. And so, you know, the World War II era brings that in spades, of course, and like so many great genre tropes around, you know, teams of people coming together for a mission, and it's just a fun sandbox to play in. But it also gave us a lot of like latitude, because trying to tell a story in the contemporary era, you sometimes bump into a lot of stuff where it felt like there was just a lot of untold story and a lot of open territory in this era.
Amazing.
Yeah, and especially for dealing with a character like Gabriel Jones, who is the only Black member of the Howling Commandos, and then dealing with, you know, Azuri and Nanali, who are from a cloistered nation, who have almost no exposure to the outside world. To bring that all together under the sort of the threat of A, Nazis, B, Hydra, but, you know, C, just war, and having them all have their lives and their worlds exposed to other ones, and what it's like for Gabriel Jones to meet a king of Wakanda. Like, what does that gotta feel like? And so to have him be a playable character, not somebody on the sidelines, but to have him be part of the drama in a very fundamental way was an opportunity almost too good to pass up.
Amazing. Amy, can you tell me a little bit about genre? Because when I watched the trailer, you know, I associate it with Skydance and I associate it with you and Amy. I have an idea of what an Amy Hennig game is. And I get excited about an Amy Hennig game. But for the audience that might not be familiar with Amy Hennig games or that might just want to know more about what this game is going to be like to play, like where do you put this game genre-wise?
Yeah, well, genre-wise, I mean, we are solidly, I mean, look, if you've played my previous games, you know, you're not going to be far off the mark. Thank you. Thank you. I'm a very, I mean, as a gamer myself and as a creator, I love playing in the action-adventure space. And so, again, if you're familiar with my work, you're going to be familiar with the DNA, but we're doing some different stuff. And so, you know, for a second here, like the pillars of our project are, as you would expect, the fact that it's story-driven and character-driven, that it's sort of deeply, you know, cinematic and very rich in its cinematic presentation. We're doing some very cool stuff in that area that I haven't seen before as well. That the visual presentation, the visual fidelity is best in class. But what's maybe not so usual is our fourth pillar, which is the game has to be inviting and welcoming to everybody. That why do we put these experiences? Here we've got this franchise and this IP that is universally loved, but we're going to put it behind this sort of walled garden where, you know, if you can't hang and you can't get good, it's not for you. We want everybody to feel like they can experience this, they can put themselves in the shoes of these heroes. The controls are simple, contextual, intuitive, but also deep for longtime gamers and people who have never touched a game before.
Can I ask you about the ensemble of story writers that you brought to work
yes,
together?
Yes, I would
on
love
this
to.
video game?
Thank you for bringing that up. And I'll have Marc talk to this as well. It was super important because, look, we're actually sort of structuring this game like a bingeable, sort of almost like you would with a TV series, but it's a bingeable, serialized adventure. And so we thought it was super important to bring in a team of creatives, storytellers with this sort of diverse experience in TV, film, comics, and games to kind of form a writer's room. So in that way, I'm almost more like a showrunner than I am, you know, the sole or lead writer.
Wow.
You know, talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the things that I was super interested in when Amy and Todd Stashwick, who was the bridge between us, had talked about was, yeah, we're putting together the Avengers of people who can tell stories. And I was like, I'm down for that. Who do I get to be?
That's awesome. Imagine being like called up to be the event.
Right?
Like in that scenario, you know, he is.
He's Nick Fury.
Yeah, he's Nick Fury.
He knocked on my door and it's like, hey man, let me talk to you about this initiative. And so to be in a room with Todd and with Amy and to learn how games work from them, and then Akela Cooper and Nicole Levy and myself are all sort of screenwriters, Evan Narcisse, who's a games designer and a comic book writer, and Jeffrey Thorne and Dr. Chris Bell, and everybody came to it with this sort of multiplicity of entry points where some of us are gamers, some of us aren't. Some of us are deep comic nerds, some of us aren't. But all of us sort of love story, and all of us love character, and all of us love Black Panther. And so to get to tell a story that's a brand new story within the canon, but to have a little bit of Black Panther, you know, in us was just too good to resist. And we all just like happily signed onto the Zooms every day for years and years and years. And I now wear glasses from Zooming talking about Black Panther, but it was the best time that I've ever had in a room because these are the toys we get to play with, man.
That's so exciting. Like this whole game, I think, is so exciting. I'm sure there's plenty of people at home that are like, "Oh, let's freaking go! I can't wait to get my hands on this thing."
We're going.
Of course. Now, like you know, we've talked a lot about story. Of course, like I mean, I think you're known for story. Marc, you're known for story, right? I guess my final question, though, to lead us out: what can players expect when they get their hands on the controller?
Well, like I said, what they can expect is an experience that sort of meets them where they are, whether they've never touched a game before or they're a long-time gamer. And that the controls, like you might expect from other kinds of games, you know, because we've drawn inspirations from things like rhythm games and even VR experiences and mobile games, as well as the games you'd expect in the action-adventure space, that the controls are like intuitive, contextual, simple, responsive, satisfying, and you have the second-to-second gameplay. Even though we're story-driven, player has second-to-second agency in this game, but we want you to feel the thing that you're doing, and so you won't have to like study a manual. You won't have to go into some subscreen and look at, you know, how to do combos. It's just gonna be, we want to get players in an experiential flow state where they get to embody these heroes.
Well, Marc, Amy, thank you guys so much for joining me here. This has been
Thanks
awesome.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Awesome.
Thank you so much.